Alright, Rome Total War fans, I have an interesting video for you today, I think. I'm going to bring you an overview of Rome Total Realism VII, Fate of Empires. This is obviously a mod for Rome Total War, and it focuses on the fight that took place in the Western Mediterranean, starting in the year 280 BC. So the main factions involved are the Republic of Carthage, the Numidians, there's some barbarian tribes as well, and then of course Epirus, which is also the Greeks in Sicily, and I think I covered most of the main factions there. So let me just show you some of the units by having a custom battle here. Alright, as you can see, there's a lot of maps in the new Rome Total Realism that aren't featured in the original. Let's pick a good Carthaginian venue, so let's take a look at what we got. Tripolitanian Desert, that was part of the Kingdom of Carthage. How about Carthaginian Homelands? That one sounds good. Alright, here's the factions available. We have the SPQR, Republic of Carthage, Kingdom of Epirus. We have Autonomi Dynasty, which Eastern Many Factions is the description. The Autonomoi, I don't know how to pronounce this, it's Greek. Polis, which is Greek mini factions. Then you have Celtiberia, and the Gauls, Cisalpine Gauls, Barbaroi, which is a bunch of barbarian mini factions, the Numidians, and then the Free Tribes, which is the rebels, basically. Alright, so let's pick Republic of Carthage, and I'm going to put a lot of money here because the units in this game are quite expensive. Alright, let me show you the army I chose to represent Hannibal's army at the Battle of Zama, which is what we'll be recreating. Up front, I have the elephants that he kind of foolishly charged straight into the Romans, which I'll actually do to recreate that aspect. My first line is going to represent part of the levies that the Carthaginians came up with. These are just kind of cheap skirmisher warriors, Punic peltast. And I don't believe they're the armor-piercing variety that was seen in Rome Total Realism VI. My second line is also going to represent the levies, because most of the army that Hannibal had was levy troops, and these are Libyan hoplites, so they're going to represent the citizen levies. And then in the last line, I have Hannibal's elite veterans from the wars in Italy. They were armed in the Roman fashion, having picked up a lot of Roman armor and arms along the way. You can see them here. They're actually called mercenary Oscan infantry, so it's some type of Italian mercenaries. So I figured that would pretty well fit what I needed. And they have javelins as well, so they're armed a lot like Romans. Back here, this unit is actually called Hamilcar Barca, or a Hamilcar Barca. So yeah, I figured that could represent Hannibal pretty well. So there he is. And here is the Sacred Band Cavalry, which we're going to imagine that the elders allowed to fight. And then in the rear is my Carthaginian Cavalry, which is just going to be the citizen cavalry. Alright, so let's start the battle. Let me show you the Roman army that I chose for Scipio Africanus. As you can see, they're lined up in the Acer Triplex. Up front, they have 2 units of Velites. Now, this was the only battle where the Romans were outnumbered by the Carthaginians, and I didn't represent that perfectly, but I have it. There's 4 Hastati and 4 Principes, 2 units of Triarii, and I represent pretty well here the cavalry. There's 2 units of Equites, and then there's also 3 units of Numidian cavalry. 2 of them are the skirmisher variety, and 1 of them is this Numidian noble cavalry that you see here. So I've got the Numidians represented properly in this battle. So let's move the army forward and let's see if we can rewrite history here. I'm going to try and use similar tactics that Hannibal did. The only real difference is going to be that I have extra cavalry that Hannibal would not have had in real life. And that's them there again, the Sacred Band. I love how in this they carry the spears over their shoulder, which seems a little more realistic. Alright, so I'm pulling my army up into position, and once the Romans get a little closer, I'm going to charge my elephants straight into them, like Hannibal did, even though I don't really think that's a good idea. And historically speaking, what Scipio did to counter this was he created gaps in his line, much like you see here, and they used trumpets and other things to basically scare the elephants through the gaps, and then when the elephants ran amok, they scared them back towards the Carthaginian line, and they actually caused some damage there. So here comes the elephant charge. Get this up close. There we go. And the elephants are in, and it looks like the Romans are making a beeline for my front line. I'm going to leave my Punic Peltasts to fight, to actually stand and fight, because that's kind of what Hannibal did. Each of his lines basically stood and fought until routing. Alright, the elephants have run amok. That's pretty historically accurate. Now, because it's the AI, even though they came up in pretty good fashion, they do make stupid mistakes like this where their cavalry comes up and has gotten locked onto my spearmen. So it looks like the Romans have easily routed my front line, which is to be expected, and I'm now going to activate my cavalry. I'm going to try and mass my cavalry to knock out the Roman cavalry. Now the Roman units are engaging my my citizen levies here. Now these Libyan hoplites I brought are actually probably a little bit better than the levies would have been, so hopefully this doesn't ruin the historical accuracy part. But you can see the Romans engaging them. And here's my cavalry out on the flank, and I'm going, those are Numidian cavalry, so I'm actually not going to chase them. I'm going to bring my cavalry up and do some hammer and anvil work. So in the battle, the Romans actually broke through the levies pretty easily, and I imagine that they're about to. Right now the Libyan hoplites are shaken, so they're not going to be able to stand their ground much longer in the face of that Roman assault, and that was also the case. So I'm going to have my cavalry do some work in the backfield here. Here's the Numidian noble cavalry. I'm going to engage them. And my cavalry is slaughtering them. Numidian noble cavalry is heavy, but not as heavy as Sacred Band. The Carthaginian cavalry I brought is heavy cavalry, but it's also not super heavy. And there's my cavalry engaging the Romans. Now because the Romans threw away a lot of their cavalry, they're going to be in trouble. And yeah, the Romans are throwing away their cavalry. That's partly because the AI just isn't very smart. My citizen levies are holding out, which shouldn't be the case. So to make this more realistic, I'm going to withdraw them from the battle. So there they go. They're going to rout. No, we can't fight anymore. So there we go. I'll make some historical accuracy. Now, I'm going to activate my veterans. That was the last line of defense at Zama. I'm going to have them throw their javelins, and here comes the Romans. So now Hannibal's depending on his faithful soldiers that served him for decades in Italy. That's not good. There goes Scipio. So, yep, that's not good for the Romans. And that obviously didn't happen in real life. And because Scipio has died, now the Roman line is faltering. And I'm also bringing in a hammer and anvil strike that's going to rout the center. And now I'm going to charge everything against this last remaining pocket of Roman resistance. Here we go. Let's get up close so you can see some of the unit skins in this game. Those are Hastati. The units really look nice in this game, and you can also see Principes mixed in there. And now they're all running for their life. And what's funny is this is actually kind of what happened to Hannibal at the real Battle of Zama. It just would have been the opposite. It came down to the last fight between Hannibal's veterans and the Roman troops, and instead of the Carthaginian cavalry being the remaining cavalry, it was actually the Roman cavalry, and they hit them from behind and basically caused a massive rout in the Carthaginian army. Alright, so this battle is pretty much over. Hope you've enjoyed this kind of trying to be historical recreation of Zama. I thought this game allows me to do a nice recreation of it. Of course, like I've said, this is obviously not the way it happened in real life. And as much as I give Rome a hard time, I am interested in Roman history. There's probably a lot of people on my channel that think I hate Rome, and that's not the case. I'm very impressed with Roman accomplishments in their military, and I like reading their history as well. I just get upset because I like Hannibal so much, and when you read about someone that's kind of your hero, you hate to have seen them basically failed like he did in that battle. So there's my veterans chasing these Romans back to their mom, and sending a few of them on their way to Hades. And this battle's over, so let's end the battle. Here's the results.
Lies in your grasp,
I had 701 kills, and the Romans had 333. Hope you liked my historical recreation of this, and hope you enjoyed the video.